Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harpreet Kapoor, the moderator of this call. Welcome to the Cummins India Limited analyst call for Q4 2021. Today on this call, we have with us our leadership team, Mr. Stephen Chapman, Chairman Cummins India Limited, Mr. Director Cummins India, and Mr. Ajay Patil, Chief Finance Officer, Cummins India. Instructions for Q&A session will be followed soon. I would like to now hand over the floor to Mr. Ashwath Ram. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ashwath Ram. I'm the Managing Director of Cummins India Limited. I hope you and your family are all doing well. Everyone is safe and staying healthy. Whole of last year has been quite a momentous year with a huge set of downs and ups, and I feel we have come out of this crisis only headed into a new one this year. But I also feel that we have come out very strongly out of this crisis. We finished the year with sales of 4,256 crores, which were 16% below last year. We ended up with PBIT of 19.4%, which was 357 basis points better than last year. And so our PBIT improved by 357 basis points despite 16% drop in revenue. We continue to manage down our discretionary spend by over 62 crores. We improved our free cash flow. And now I will share with you the financial results of Q4 financial year 21 and full year financial year 21 through this call. For the quarter ended March 31, 2021, with respect to the last year same quarter, our sales at 1,231 crores were higher by 19% compared to 1,032 crores recorded in the same quarter last year. Domestic sales at 976 crores increased by 26%. Exports at 255 crores declined by 1%. Profit before tax and exceptional items at 245 crores is 109% higher as compared to 117 crores recorded in the same quarter last year. For the quarter ended March 31, 2021, with respect to the sequential quarter, our sales at 1,231 crores declined by 12% compared to 1,400 crores recorded in the preceding quarter. Domestic sales at 976 crores declined by 5%. Exports at 255 crores declined by 32%. Profit before tax and exceptional items at 245 crores declined by 19% compared to 304 crores recorded in the preceding quarter. Segment-wise breakup for the quarter ended March 31, 2021. The sales breakup segment-wise is as follows. Domestic industrial business sales were at rupees 268 crores, 10% higher than last year. Power generation business domestic sales were 355 crores, 34% increase over last year. Distribution business sales were 337 crores, 33% increase over last year. Exports, high horsepower export sales were 135 crores, 8% drop over last year. LHP export sales were 95 crores, 4% increase over last year. For the year ended March 31, 2021, with respect to financial year 20, our sales at rupees 4,256 crores declined by 16% compared to 5,062 crores recorded in the same period last year. Domestic sales at 3,103 crores declined by 18%. Exports at 1,153 crores declined by 11%. Profit before tax and exceptional items at 808 crores is 400 basis points higher when compared to 759 crores recorded during the same period last year. The segment-wise breakup for the year ended March 31, 2021 is as follows. Domestic business sales were at 743 crores, 21% drop over last year. Power generation domestic business was 1,108 crores or 22% drop over last year. Distribution business sales were at 1,202 crores or 11% drop over last year. Exports, high horsepower export sales were 606 crores or 17% drop over last year, and low horsepower export sales were 451 crores or 5% drop over last year. Some additional commentary for you regarding the quarter. Quarter 4 in the exports business is typically lower than quarter 3, mainly because global customers gradually start ramping up, and we are starting to see trends that global demand is continuing to improve pretty strongly. Domestic demand in power gen is strong and inventories are at all-time lows. Supply chain issues, especially in electronic chips and sensors, turbochargers and radiators from the global as well as local supply chain, were the primary reasons for not being able to meet all the demand. Markets like rail continue to be sluggish and are further impacted by COVID. The company continues to focus on cost management and improving our efficiency and profitability. The company expects gradual recovery of demand in upcoming months. However, market conditions due to the second wave of COVID continue to remain uncertain, and visibility of end market recovery is still somewhat limited. The company is therefore not providing full year revenue guidance for FY 2022. With this, I would like to open the session for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we will open the floor for Q&A interactive session. Participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press 0 and then 1 on your telephone keypad and wait for your name to be announced. I'll repeat, to ask a question, you need to press 0 and then 1. The first question of the day we have from Mr. Ravi Swaminathan from Spark Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good morning. My first question is with respect to exports. I heard your commentary that usually fourth quarter is relatively weaker than the other quarters in terms of exports. But say a couple of years ago, we used to do a run rate of 300 crores and above, sometimes even 350 crores. And the current quarter it's almost like 250 crores. And wouldn't that have some of the pent-up demand also? So on a normalized run rate, it might have been even lower. So why it is below average, say, compared to, say, a couple of years ago, in spite of the fact that certain countries like end markets like US, etc., are doing very well?
Yeah, so the market is gradually beginning to recover. So we have started off slow, but we remain optimistic that this year should pick up as the quarters go along. We remain optimistic. When we look at order trends from global markets around the world, as you said, certain markets have already started to improve, and some are gradually starting up.
So exports, what kind of growth can we see in financial year 22? Given the fact that many markets are coming back, can we expect double-digit kind of a growth in exports?
It's very difficult to predict at this time. All we can say is that demand as of now is coming back pretty strongly. So we expect to do better than we did earlier.
Got it, sir. And with respect to the domestic market in power gen, when do you expect the CPCB 4 norms to be implemented? Do you expect any pre-buy next 12 months due to that? And what kind of price increase do you expect at an engine level, at a genset level? If you can share, that will be great, sir.
Yeah, so these are multiple questions. So what I'll try to do is try to answer each of them. Certainly, we now expect too much delay in introduction of CPCB 4 norms, and the reason we believe that is that the US has also signed back onto the Paris Agreement. So there is going to be a lot of global pressure on ensuring that emission norms are progressing at the right frame rate. So we don't anticipate any further delays on CPCB 4. We do expect a small amount of pre-buy. We are not sure exactly how much the pre-buy is. Typically, pre-buy do happen when you are migrating from one level of technology to another, but they're very difficult to predict how much of a pre-buy can happen. And as far as pricing is concerned, I'm afraid we won't be able to share that at this time, but we do, our past history globally has been that every emission change cycle, we are able to improve our margins.
Got it, sir. And my last question is with respect to other income. This time has been quite high. What is the component in that? And if you can give the breakup of power gen and industrial business, power gen with respect to LHP, MHP, HD, HHP, and industrial, if you can break it up into the respective compressor, construction, mining, rail and marine. Thanks.
Other income has been higher mainly because of dividend from the company's JV.
Okay. Got it, sir. And the breakup, sir?
Yeah. Breakup of the power gen.
Yeah, power gen industry.
So in power gen, do you want it for this quarter or do you want it for the...
This quarter, sir. This quarter, yeah.
Okay. For this quarter, high horsepower was 185 crores. Medium horsepower was 70 crores. Low horsepower was 88 crores, and for a total of about 355 crores.
Okay. HD is there in this, sir?
Yeah, if you break it up by heavy by those segments, you have low horsepower of 38 crores, mid-range of 75 crores, heavy duty of 45 crores, and high horsepower of 185 crores, and miscellaneous of projects of about 12 crores.
Okay. And industrial, sir, compressor, construction?
So for the previous quarter, compressor was 40 crores, construction was 145 crores, mining was 16 crores, rail was 48 crores, marine and others was about 19 crores.
Thanks, sir.
Next we have Sandeep Tulsian from JM Financial. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. My first question is again pertaining to the exports. If you can highlight a bit more in terms of regional mix, how that has changed in the past financial year, and if for the whole year you can share broad mix between different geographies and how that has contrasted versus financial year 20.
Sure. So when you look at exports as compared to last year, what we saw was that Asia Pacific was at 329 crores, which was slightly higher than what it was in the previous year, mainly because areas like China and some parts of Asia recovered faster. Latin America was lower, mainly because those areas continue to be COVID impacted and are recovering a lot more slowly. Middle East was flat. Europe was significantly lower. Africa was significantly lower. And miscellaneous spare parts and other things were higher. And when we look at this year, we are seeing that China has had now almost a full year of recovery, so they continue to be strong. Parts of North America and Europe are beginning to come back. North America faster than Europe. But Latin America, Africa and Middle East continue to lag and are coming back at a lot more gradual level.
Okay. So if you can share the broad numbers, as you mentioned, 329 crores for Asia Pacific, how that would be for, say, Latin, Middle East, Europe and the African and other markets?
Unfortunately, we don't have that breakup available at the moment. But I can tell you that relatively Latin America and Africa were our worst performing regions from an overall global perspective.
Understood. Second question is pertaining to the comment that you made in the previous conference call on the venture out of Cummins on the hydrogen side. Since given a lot of government announcement and initiatives have been given in the last quarter, do we intend to form a separate entity for this so that we can map out what kind of investments are going in and what kind of returns we'll generate? And again, just to follow up on that is what percentage of business would remain within the listed entity and what business in hydrogen would be outside of the listed entity's purview?
As of now, there are no clearly defined thoughts on this. This is an evolving space, and the technologies are also evolving in this space. But Cummins India continues to, through its different business units. So let's say rail or infrastructure, wherever those opportunities come up, those particular segments continue to bid for those projects and participate in those kinds of tenders. The company is still working on the best way to capitalize on these emerging technologies and figure out a path in the future. There is no plans as of today on what that route will be, but we are working out all scenarios and all options to figure out what would be the best. As far as
please go ahead, sir.
Businesses which have been in Cummins India will continue to remain in Cummins India, and we continue to work on growing those businesses aggressively.
Got it. And lastly, sir, it was heartening to see that we have curtailed our capex in the past financial year, and assuming bulk of the capex for CPCB4 would also be behind us. What would be the annual capex run rate that we intend to pursue going forward? If you can give some more clarity, and what's the thought process on these cash flows that the company is generating, where we intend to divert that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I won't give you exact numbers, but all I can tell you is that the big infrastructure capex which we had undergone in the previous years is behind us. Most of our new capex is focused on growth, that is product upgrades and product technology, and on sustenance capex for what has already been invested in. So yes, we do see that the capex cycle is going to be the capex we intend to spend is going to be a lot lower than what we have spent in the past.
Got it. All right, sir. Thank you so much for taking my question.
Next, we have Ranjit Shivram from ICICI Securities. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, we have seen the commodity prices have been going up, and that is also impacting our overall gross margins this quarter. So, what kind of price increases that we have taken, or when will that get likely reflected? Is it in the first quarter, or was it in fourth quarter there was some portion of that price increases? And what is your overall strategy to minimize the impact of the commodity price increase?
Yeah. So you are right in stating that commodities have gone up significantly. Pretty much all the major commodities that this business works on have all increased substantially. And our way to combat this kind of increase is twofold. One is certainly we continue to focus on cost reduction, which means we are looking internally to say what all can we do to reduce the cost structure or the material cost of the product. That is one. The second, of course, is to pass on prices, commodity increases to customers. Those customers where commodity-linked agreements are already in place, that happens automatically based on a periodicity that is defined. For those that doesn't happen, that happens through negotiations and price increases, which are typically lagging, I would say, by about a quarter or so at least. So we do intend to catch that up. I can't give you specifics on exactly how much we are planning to increase, but to say that we will increase enough to make sure that we are offsetting most of these increases.
Okay. And what continuation of that policy angle of CPCB? So the previous date was the notification was expected in July. So do we believe that the July notification date can be other to, or do you feel there can be some delay to that announcement?
As of now, there is only a draft notification, but when we talk to the ministry, they keep telling us that they don't anticipate any delays, and that we should be completely prepared and ready for the timing they have announced in the draft itself. So as of now, that's what we are planning on, and based on the pressure the government is facing to make sure environmental laws are implemented and aligned to global environmental ruling, we do not think there should be too much of a delay, even if there is.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'll join for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Renu Vaid from IIFL. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. I have a few questions. First would be, if we look at broadly as in post CPCB 4, it is expected that the overall cost of ownership of the genset could go up anywhere between 30-40% to the end consumer. Do you think the steep jump in likely cost can drive transition to alternate fuels, gas or others? And how would be Cummins' preparedness to offer alternate products in the market?
So very, very good question. Certainly, we have seen in certain market segments, if the cost increase is too much, alternate technologies become easier to adopt. I don't think that the amount of increase that will happen going between CPCB 2 and 4 will prompt that much of a change, because the alternative as of now to diesel is natural gas, and the products with natural gas are even more expensive to meet the same emission standards. That being said, Cummins already has products with those technologies as well, and is a market leader in those alternative technologies like gas as well. So should some amount of availability of fuels like natural gas become available in places in the big cities, we will be ready with products to be able to capitalize on that. So in any of the scenarios of tightening emission norms and moving to alternate energy ideas, Cummins benefits, because we already have implemented and demonstrated these technologies in other parts of the world.
Sure. And can you help us quantify what could be the rough quantum of revenues which would have slipped because of the supply chain issues and orders getting delayed in shipments because of the COVID second wave in the domestic market as well as outside?
It's
during the fourth quarter.
Pretty complicated to really put a real number to it, but I can say that honestly, I don't have a very good feel for it. It's a combination of so many variables with supply chain, with specific parts within the supply chain, and also different regions of the country being shut for COVID lockdowns and such kinds of variables. So I would say that supply chain is a problem right now. We are seeing no demand loss, because we are seeing inventory levels at most of the OEMs as well as with the dealers and distributors continue to keep reducing.
Okay. Probably we missed the initial comments. Can you help us understand what was the impact of the COVID second wave and lockdowns that we've seen April onwards on the business and the expectation of recovery in the domestic demand outlook going forward in the second half of the year?
I can just tell you what I expect it to be for this quarter, because we've already seen the month of April and seen most of May.
Sure.
So we were at roughly about 50% utilization in the last month and this month as well. 50% by means of people being able to come into work, supply availability, disruptions in the supply chain, all of that leads to roughly about 50% of our efficiency being utilized. Prior to that, we were at close to 70% levels of utilization. So we were in a mode of ramping up from the previous cycle to go beyond 70 to 80, 90 kind of percent, and with this we are back to about 50%. So that's where we are right now, and it's very difficult right now to predict whether it will bounce back in June or July or August. It all depends on how well we are able to contain the second wave across the country.
Sure. And so one last question, if I can ask. Globally, the way we are seeing the energy transition towards alternate technologies and product lines from a medium to long-term perspective, is it fair enough to say that the global supply chain, especially for ICE products, has a higher probability to move to India? And to what extent, if that happens, can Cummins India leverage this opportunity and drive exports for the global supply chain and for domestic competitiveness?
So again, a great question. As you know, Cummins is a global company with presence in over 100 countries. But if you look at our supply chain footprint, we have three major regions which account for majority of our supply chain. The first one being the home ground of North America. The second is China, and the third, of course, is India. And when you look at the variables of cost, quality, and delivery, India happens to lead in all of those variables. So I remain highly optimistic that as the global economy recovers and as there is consolidation of manufacturing and technologies, that India will get more and more opportunities to produce products for the world.
Sure. Any numbers that you would want to quantify, or it's too early for that?
It's too early for that, but I can confirm that every quarter we get more and more business. So it's great. It's not just hypothesis; it's reality. We see more business coming in.
Got it. Thank you and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Akshit from HDFC Securities. Your line is unmuted.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Parikshit here from HDFC. So my first question was, you touched upon the gas technology with us, which is required can be brought in. So this will be done in the CIL entity only, right? If at all there is a change in the technology from diesel to natural gas.
Diesel to natural gas, yes. For all the products in those segments, if the transition happens from diesel to natural gas, propane or any other form of fuel, continue to remain in the gas.
Okay. So, second question was on the overall clean technology and the EV infrastructure being set up slowly picking up in India. So what we have seen in some instances that there is a backup genset which is being provided despite getting the regular supply of power from the utilities. So do you think over a period of time this could be also one of the big opportunities over the next 5 to 10 years for CIL?
I couldn't hear your question very well. Could you repeat just the last portion of that? What were you asking from opportunity perspective? Sorry.
So I was seeing from that the EV infrastructure on the charging side, which we are seeing gradually getting rolled out in India in some places. So there is also a backup genset which is being given as a backup so that the power continuity remains in case of outages. So do you think that an overall piece of the EV infrastructure will have some role to play as maybe provide this backup power gen?
Oh, yeah.
In some
Yeah, so do you think? I understood the question. I got it. Yes, we do have a role to play in that, and we are playing a role. Pretty much every infrastructure project which happens, we have some kind of involvement, whether it be from our industrial segment for building roads and earth moving and digging tunnels, digging ditches, to all of those use our industrial side products. And if we have to produce power, have power in remote location, provide a backup to clean power, because as you know, the clean power works only in certain hours during the day or under certain conditions. So typically, as the percentage of clean power in any economy increases, our business also goes up, because you want reliable power to be supplied. The other trend you typically see is, one would think that as a nation becomes more sufficient in grid power, the demand for backup power would go away. But that is not the true reality. As people get used to having electricity 24/7, every small disruption they find uncomfortable, so they want backup power. So that then serves as a means for growth, and that's why we have seen growth over decades, even in countries like in North America or Europe, or even countries like Japan and China, who have pretty much solved their power supply problems.
Okay. So just my last question would be, on the last call you had mentioned that the price hike, given the commodity impact, you will not take a peanut butter kind of an approach. So here the price hike will be commensurate to the raw material increases. So first question, the first point on was that this quarter we had a gross margin hit. So have we accounted already for the current order, the entire impact of raw materials, or will it still continue in the next quarter? And whether the market demand is so strong that they will be able to absorb the price hike. Is that such a point?
So like you rightly said, it doesn't happen in a peanut butter approach, and it happens based on the type of product and the content there, and it happens over a period of time. So yes, the impact is typically market doesn't react too negatively to this, and we think there is a lot of pent-up demand in the market right now. So we see a minimal impact of commodities on overall demand as of today.
And we have accounted for the commodity impact already in this quarter, the entire impact on our order book?
Okay. That's correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That's all from me.
Next we have Mahavin Bitlani from SBI Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So a few questions. First is, in fiscal year 19, we had a very strong order, the product launch. I mean, we had QSK 19, QSK 50, the Undersung, etc. And at the AGM day, when you were selected as the MD CEO, it was guided that there could be another 11, 12 products which are in the pipeline. So it will be useful to understand where are we in that, and if you could also highlight the products that were launched during fiscal year 21.
Sure. I won't give you the list of all the products we have launched. We will be publishing that soon. But yes, we continue to innovate. We continue to launch new products. We continue to develop new products for the export market. We continue to work on fit for market products for quite a few markets, which means earlier we used to supply one product type for every market globally. And over the last year or two, we have been working continuously to create fit for market products for each region and certain market segments. So certainly a lot of products are being launched. You should see announcements coming out pretty much every quarter. And we are very excited about our new portfolio, and we certainly believe that, being a product company, that's where we excel at, and we are pretty optimistic about our opportunities in the future.
That's helpful. The second question is on exports. So when we look at the CMI results, and especially we saw PowerGen was the star performer in the March quarter, but our exports actually seem to be off the trend. If you could help us understand, on the trend line, you mentioned that you're very optimistic, and we saw around 400 crores per quarter run rate in second quarter and third quarter. So just some granular understanding will be useful. Can we expect 400 crore as a steady state run rate, and that might come back as normalcy restores?
I won't give you exact numbers, but all I can tell you is that PowerGen, which was for the last, I would say, almost 3 or 4 years, has been globally a declining kind of market. The decline has been arrested last year, and we are starting to see upward trends from this year. So while certain segments are doing significantly better, like data centers and telecom are doing significantly better in the PowerGen space as compared to other segments, we are seeing optimism, and we are seeing opportunities start to emerge there. So whether that will immediately translate to 400 crores or more, or what that number is, I don't have a good feel for it right now. All I can say is that it appears optimistic from what we are seeing trends around the world.
That's helpful. Another just data point, MEIS impact, what could be that in the March quarter, and any outlook that you are seeing on the ROTTEP?
Yes, so certainly we have taken an impact of MEIS in the whole year. I would say that just a second, I'm just looking up some numbers here. Give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah. So from an export incentive perspective, with MEIS, we have seen a loss of roughly somewhere between 30 to 40 crores is the impact on our bottom line. And RODTAP is still not implemented and still awaiting a lot of clearance and guidance on that. So we haven't factored that in. So there is no impact in the March quarter.
So just continuing on that, have we factored that in our export pricing, and maybe subsequently the pricing could be revised, or we are now continuing with the old prices, only assuming that the incentives can come back?
So that is all factored into the pricing.
Sure. And just the last question from my side on the alternative technology. Being around the world and specifically fuel cells, do you see that these could actually become a good substitute for the backup gensets, or these are actually primarily being used for prime power applications? Your outlook will be useful on this.
When we talk about new energy, we are usually talking about electric driven. Typically we are talking about fuel cells, and we are talking about hydrogen, and we are not talking about wind, solar, and those typically. Cummins doesn't have any play in solar or wind, but certainly Cummins has a very strong play in the hydrogen and the battery electric economy. We don't see that playing a major role in the power gen market, at least for the next 15 or so years. And we are also looking at ways by which existing equipment and technology can be used in conjunction with some of these new and alternate fuels. So there is a path we are continuously working on. We have also made significant investments as Cummins globally in the hydrogen economy. So when that transition happens, Cummins will be very well placed in that space as well. So I would say that's where we are right now. But in the short to medium term, which I am classifying as up to 15 years, we don't see too much impact of some of these new fuels. As a matter of fact, we see demand for diesel rising pretty significantly before it starts to taper.
Sure, that's very helpful. Thank you so much for taking my questions.
Next, we have Charanjit Singh from BSP Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good morning. So my first question is on the domestic power gen. If you can, give us an understanding for FY21 whole year, how different, end markets would have looked like. Maybe what was the proportion of sales from real estate, data centers, or manufacturing? And going forward, as these lockdowns open up, how do you see, some of these key end markets behaving? And do you see manufacturing as a segment coming back in a big way for the domestic power gen? That's my first question.
Yeah. So from a segment perspective, as far as the domestic market was concerned last year, I'll start off with the worst performing sectors because those are very clear and easy to talk about. The number one worst performing sector, of course, was hospitality. So hotels and were pretty much shut throughout the year or were starting up for a very small period.
Mr. Charanjit, please don't attend another call from your phone. Thank you.
So as I was saying, hospitality, residential and commercial real estate were the worst impacted last year. Other segments were impacted for I would say for a couple of quarters, like manufacturing and infrastructure. But in the latter half of the year, as the government began pumping in more money, all those segments began recovering. The segments which performed the best were, of course, data center, telecom, IT, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, and hospitals, etc. So there was a very distinct, performance difference between the well-performing sectors versus the badly performing sectors. Whereas for the current year, we are seeing pretty much, other than hospitality and some parts of commercial realty, almost everything, all other segments have started to recover pretty strongly.
Okay. And sir, on the industrial side, most of the categories are definitely bound to show good growth. So within that, if you can highlight to us the trends, especially in railways or construction and mining, how do you see the second half picking up as the project activity starts picking up much more faster in those markets?
So construction certainly was on track before the second wave to be at a record level. And at Cummins, we certainly feel the emphasis the government has placed on infrastructure, building roads, ports, highways, all of that will lead to a multi-year growth in construction like we've never seen before. And so we are very, very optimistic on the construction market, and we have the leading market share and have great products in that space. So we continue to remain optimistic about that bouncing back once things start to open up. As far as rail is concerned, the rail is the most significantly impacted because trains have not been running at capacity since the lockdown last year. So it's been almost a full year where rail has not been running at capacity, and it is likely to take even more time, a few more quarters before rail starts to bounce back up. So rail is the segment where, even though we have great share and we have great products, the segment itself is likely to take some time to recover. Mining was not at all impacted due to COVID. Mines continue to run and production continues to be at record levels, and we continue to see that grow very well. And segments like marine and pumps, etc. Also, we are starting to see a strong revival. And once we are out of this second wave, we think they will bounce back pretty strongly.
Okay. So thanks for the detailed answer. Just last question from my side on our market share currently. And in any particular segment, are you seeing that we can see incremental gains in market share? Can you just highlight that? That's all from my side.
As of now, we are pretty much holding market share across most segments. We haven't seen a real gain across any of the segments as of now. But we remain focused on improving market share.
Okay. So that's all from my side. Thank you. Thanks for taking the questions.
Next, we have Nilesh Shetty from Quantum Mutual Funds. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Just to understand, since you run a global business, in countries where you operate, say Europe and US, what was the demand like post the second wave? Was it sort of much stronger than what you thought? Did it surprise on the upside? And how did sort of your products that you operate in, Cummins India, how did these end markets behave at the end of the second wave?
Certainly the markets, especially North America and Europe and China, bounced back quite aggressively. China didn't even have a very strong second wave. So they just kept going after the first waves. As far as North America and Europe is concerned, North America bounced back faster than what was anticipated, and Europe is starting to bounce back as of now. So, as a matter of fact, at the end of the first wave, India surprisingly bounced back faster than almost every other market. So, and we are better prepared now from a manufacturing and supply chain perspective than we were when we were hit with the first wave. So, my hypothesis is that India should be able to bounce back quite well.
Okay, and does the global chip shortage, which is impacting the auto industry, does it have any impact on your production or?
It has more of an impact on our automotive side of the business, which is much lower inside CIL. So it has a very strong impact over there. In the CIL business, all the electronic engines that we produce are impacted. We are able to supply roughly at 50% of demand in some of those markets because of the chip shortages. And those in some segments are getting slowly met, but in other segments we are still continuing to struggle with that.
Okay. And just one sort of bookkeeping question. There's a line item called purchase of traded goods in your P&L, and in some quarters it jumps sharply. Is it primarily linked to your low horsepower business where you source engines from Simpson and sort of other players, or what drives that number basically?
Yeah, that is you're exactly right in what you stated. That is the purchase of engines from Simpson.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next we have Priyanka Biswas from Goldman Sachs. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Sorry, this is Priyanka Biswas from Nomura. So there was some mispronunciation. So my first question, sir, is you seem to be reasonably confident that post the emission norm changes, the margins probably may be maintained by pass-through of the cost. But if we look at the past emission changes, let's say from CPCB 1 to CPCB 2, and even in the USA, for example, in 2016, we have seen that the EBITDA margins typically tend to contract. So how are we gaining the confidence now that this will not be the case again?
Yeah, so very good question. Usually you don't see too much of pricing advantage if the technology change is gradual. So, for example, the example you mentioned in North America, for example, the product was going from one emission level to another with a single jump, and it was moving from an electronic product to a similar electronic product with just tighter emission control. So the change was not as significant as the change we are seeing in India. So in India, we are going from CPCB 2 to CPCB 4 plus, which is 2 emission jumps, which makes the product equivalent to Euro 6 and even tighter. To achieve that level of emissions compliance, the technology change is drastic. So we are going from a 100% mechanical portfolio to a 100% electronic portfolio with 100% after treatment. So whenever we have done that kind of change in any other market segment, let it be in the automotive segment, which has gone from BS4 to BS6 in India, or when that kind of change took place even in North America or China or any of the other markets, the margin, the price, the end user price, everything changed significantly. And we took a bigger share of the pie, and we were able to improve margins during that kind of technology change.
So sir, related on this, so since we are highlighting export opportunities as well, once this technology change happens, and we are, let's say, at par or better than the other parts of the world, But what I understand is, like in China, they recently went ahead with their emission norm changes. So they went with NS6, if I am not wrong. And even Cummins China is a big player in that. What I see from their comments is they have scaled up production massively. So if they already have the scale and the technology, so wouldn't it make much more sense from a parent level to source it from there, because they already have the scale, and maybe because of the scale their cost competitiveness will be higher, whereas our norms are yet to change. So isn't that a risk to the export scenario?
I think you're mixing up two norms. The China going to NS6 is equivalent to India going to BS6. So that's an automotive norm. We are going to CPCB 4 plus, which is equal to Tier 4 final of North America, which no other market in the world is going to before us. So we will be the first there. The second point, of course, is of course India and China, we compete with each other as we supply to the rest of the world. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier comments, Cummins has 3 major manufacturing hubs around the world: North America, China, and India. And there are certain products being made in China for the world. There are certain products being made in India, and there are certain products being made in North America. And continuously, we need to. There is no entitlement, so we have to be better on cost, quality, and delivery. Otherwise, certainly, customers will go to markets and areas which provide better performance. But we remain confident that we have advantages in all those spaces.
Also, sir, the last question from my side, this is linked to the new technologies, especially like hydrogen and fuel cells. So you are highlighting that the potential for, let's say, fuel cells is hydrogen in rail projects that you were highlighting maybe in the future. But I was just wondering, isn't it more cost effective for Indian Railways that they have kind of already electrified the main routes? And so rather than that, going for an increased solarization of the grid would actually be like a more cost-saving proposition than going by the fuel cell route, because even there to produce green hydrogen you require a renewable energy source. So how does the green hydrogen theme play here? I mean, in the railways for India?
Yeah, so it's pretty complex, the whole path to new energy. What happens in any grid, as the percentage of renewable energy increases beyond 15 to 20% of an economy's electricity production, there is a whole bunch of grid imbalance which takes place, because the clean energy, let's say solar for example, can only be produced during the day. So then what do you do during the night? So during the day, whatever you produce, you've got to figure out a way to store it, right? And so to store it means you have to now invest in batteries and other technologies which are also very, very expensive. Wind, for example, is only available at certain times during the day. So what happens is then you get surges of electricity. It is not a 100% reliable, steady source. And one of the reasons why options like hydrogen become important is you can use that surplus green energy during the day and use that energy to create hydrogen, which can then either be burnt as a fuel or be used as a store of energy to convert back into electricity. So that's certainly one path. The other path is what you mentioned. We have electrified all the main paths, but there are hundreds and thousands of little towns, villages, paths in the mountains, hills, etc., which are not electrified, and those also eventually need to move to clean sources of energy. And that is why many countries around the world, including Germany and China and Europe, etc., are moving to using the clean hydrogen in some part of their rail network, and we expect similar kind of applications in India as well.
Okay, sir, that's very clear. That was it from my side.
Next, we have Kirti Jain from Sundaram Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Sir, with regard to further price hikes, are we contemplating to take further price hikes in the coming times?
The answer is yes, to meet up with the commodity cost increases. Whatever we are planning price increases in the future.
So with regard to competitive intensity in the market, is it because of the demand momentum improving, is the competitive intensity coming off a bit, or how do you see the scenario, sir?
Competitive intensity continues at this stage, but over a period of time, as people are migrating towards new technologies, we see greater consolidation happening, and we certainly see that we have an advantage in that consolidation as the leading technology provider. So as of now, competition is pretty intense. Moving forward, as the technology causes differentiation, we expect to be able to differentiate from competition and move ahead.
Sure, sir. The last question from my side is, in terms of the non-power gen engines exports, how do you see the trajectory and what are the growth triggers in the non-power gen engine exports?
So those are for markets such as mining, construction, and we are seeing quite a positive trend in that as well. The reason some of that doesn't get counted as exports for us is what many of the global OEMs have done. Companies like Hyundai or Sany, JCB, and even companies like Hitachi, they use India as a base to produce the entire equipment for exports. So we don't then get credit for some of those exports as exports because they are purchased and built locally and exported. But they are indirect exports, and we do see a lot of opportunities in the upcoming future for those segments and those areas to continue to give us strong growth.
Sure, sir. Thanks, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
The last question of the day we have from Mr. Dipesh Agarwal from UTI Mutual Fund. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Sir, my first question is, when commodity cycle was weak, we used to hear commentary that end markets for low to medium kVA in geographies like Latin America, Africa are down by almost 40-50%. Now, with the commodity cycle being on a strong footing, do you expect these markets to bounce back where they were 3-4 years ago?
I certainly expect markets to come back stronger than they have been in the past. Like I was mentioning earlier, power generation global markets have seen almost 5 or 6 years of steady decline from the mid 2015 kind of time frame. We are starting to see that bottom out and start to gradually improve. So yes, I certainly believe that we should start seeing demand grow globally in some of those markets as well.
Okay. And so my second question is continuation of Kirti's question. With the consolidation in the industry over a longer term, do you expect the pricing discipline to come and easing of the pressure on the margins?
Certainly, as more consolidation happens and as we continue to gain market share, we are continuously striving to improve margins. So we see that as a positive trend towards improving margins.
Okay. Okay. And sir, also in last couple of con calls, you have been highlighting with CPCB4, our opportunity in the developed markets like US and all will increase as our product will become more advanced. Would the domestic product be straight away marketable in these geography, or there would be a long gestation period for us to develop specific product and market it, and before we start showing revenues there?
It won't be just automatic because India works at 50 hertz and those markets work at 60 hertz. So there are some product modifications which are needed, and when you make product modifications, because the emissions are so tight, you need to do quite a bit of work to fine tune the products. But it's not something which Cummins is not capable of doing or is difficult for Cummins to do. So certainly when we developing these products, we are looking at those options as well.
Okay. And so lastly, if I can squeeze, what extent of our domestic sales are dependent on private manufacturing, and are you seeing an increase in inquiries out there?
I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it?
So what extent of our domestic sales, or you can talk about power gen sales also, which are dependent on the private manufacturing, and are you seeing an increase in inquiries out there?
So manufacturing as a segment is a pretty large segment in power generation, because factories need power generators to drive them. They can't be 100% dependent on the grid. They want to work 24/7, etc. And yes, we had a strong order board at the end of the year, and manufacturing was beginning to ramp up very, very, very strongly. It has taken a hit right now because of all the lockdowns, etc. But yeah, I remain optimistic that once things get back to normal, there will be pent-up demand, and it will start to bounce back again.
Okay. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.
So I would like to now hand over the floor back to Ashwit sir for his final remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It seems like we have been in a constant state of crisis for the last 12 to 15 months. I remain confident that we have done all the right things. We are focused on the safety and health of our employees and their families. We have done everything to ensure that our company remains strong by focusing on costs, focusing on cash, focusing on making the company more lean and more efficient. We continue to, in this complete crisis, continues to focus on developing our products and introduce newer and better products into the market. So I remain really confident that once the economy starts to bounce back and pick up again, we should get back to the trajectory of strong growth. So we are still not out of the crisis yet. We don't think vaccinations will be completely available to all the people till for the next couple of quarters, and so we will gradually come back. But I'm urging all of you to also continue to remain safe and be confident that this is a company which has been in business for over 100 years. We've been in India for over close to 60 years now, and we will continue to do everything that is right to make sure the company remains strong and continues to grow profitably. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for addressing the session. Thank you, everyone, for taking out time and joining the call. That does conclude our analyst call for Q4 2021. You may all disconnect now. Thank you and have a great day ahead.